Welcome everyone, and thank you again for being here today. It's just great to be with you, to put God first, to remember in our lives who God is. And very recently I was in a conversation with a young lady, and she was sharing with me about some challenges she was going through and some real hardships, and my heart really went out to her, and I'm sure you want to know what she said, right? She was saying that pretty much about 2 years ago, her mom just abandoned her and her father and went off and just left. And she was a young lady at the time. In a sense, she was already grown, but still the heartache that her own mom could just abandon her and her father and leave them and pretty much lose contact. And she began to share that she became very bitter and very angry towards her mom. Didn't even really want a relationship with her mom. And around the same time, she was able to get pregnant, and she began to channel her hopes and her dreams into this upcoming child, into her firstborn actually. And then a few weeks into the pregnancy, she suffered a miscarriage. And she was sharing with me that during this time she lost a lot of hope, and she began to wonder, where is God in this? Why would God do this? And she began to question God and doubt God's goodness. And so she even began to feel guilty about where was God in her life. And the fact that she had doubted God and questioned God, then she couldn't really approach God anymore. And she began to distance herself from God. But recently in her life, she's beginning to see once again that what's missing is God. But she's carrying this guilt and this baggage. And she also said, I know that bad things are going to happen. I know that things are going to happen again that are going to hurt me. And so why give my heart to God? And my heart really went out to her, because I've been in similar places at different times in my life. And I shared with her one of the lowest points of my life. And this is when I was a recent graduate of college. And there's two things that I wanted. I wanted to be married to my now wife, but I also wanted to go into the ministry. And about 2 months after graduating college, me and my girlfriend broke up. And secondly, the pastor who was training me to be a pastor went into a moral failure and ended up being out of the ministry and actually left God. And I remember wondering, God, why? God, where are you? God, this wasn't supposed to happen. And I remember vividly being by the banks of the Potomac River in Washington, D.C., right by the Lincoln Memorial, overlooking the Arlington Cemetery, the Eternal Flame, where John F. Kennedy is buried, and just looking out and wondering, where is God in my life? I've served Him, I've tried to give my life to Him, and yet these hardships, these sufferings are happening. And there's a verse I used to always recite in my mind to remind me of God's goodness, and it's Psalm 37 verse 4. And that psalm says that if we delight ourselves in the Lord, He will give us the desires of our heart. It says, delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. And so I had this conversation with God. I said, I'm delighting myself in you. I'm trying to serve you in your church and give my heart to you and not live a worldly lifestyle. And yet at the same time, the desires I have for marriage to this woman, the desires I have for going into the ministry and making an impact for you, these things aren't on the horizon anymore. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Say, God, something's broken with this promise in my life right now. And then I began to think, delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Well, what is supposed to be the chief desire of my heart? It's God Himself. And so God told me, spoke to me, of course not audibly, but just in the stillness of being near the banks of the Potomac River. If you delight yourself in me, I will always give you myself.